everybody, and welcome to episode 98 of our lovely podcast. Today, we have Ryan Davis and Val Cheney. They are from People First, they are business partners, and they are here to talk about a very exciting subject of AI in influencer marketing, and also about their own project that's called Val AI. And I'm very curious about that, given the name gameplay here.
Yeah, and that Val's name is Val, and the project
Yes,
is it the AI
exactly.
version
So
of Val?
that's what we want to know. But besides that, we want you guys to tell us a good story about what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having us. We're super excited to be here. We love talking about Val AI. As you can imagine, she's my namesake. So she actually came into the universe as a draft because she does all of my work, but she's also my favorite animal. So it became the best of both worlds, and we are so excited to release Val to the world soon. Ryan, what else about Val?
Yeah, so, we originally were working on this. So, to take a step back, Val and I worked together at an agency called People First, and I've actually been on your pod, I think episode 4 or something.
Yeah, it was pretty early on.
Yeah, to talk about that. But we do micro influencer marketing for big brands, corporations, nonprofits, advocacy groups, and we were building this tool to sort of bring efficiency to the business. And we realized that what we had built could actually, do Val's job from beginning to end through prompts. And so that's how this became it went from being something we just called Val internally to being the product Val AI, which we're launching in a week or so, which allows people to source creators and run influencer campaigns through chat. In the same way you chat with ChatGPT or Claude, you can chat with Val to basically discover creators, build a creative brief, and then get the content live. And Val's the head of product and has been working, building out the actual Agentic application of Val and making sure that Val can do all the many things that
Val can do.
Yeah,
So I have an important question because we have this ongoing discussion on this podcast about this idea that people are sort of panicked. I think marketers in particular are sort of panicked that AI is going to take their jobs. And I just think it's interesting, Val, that you leaned into that. And not only, you're like literally were like, hey, not only am I creating an AI, I can do my job. I'm going to name it the same as me. And like, was there ever a time like you were like, well, maybe they won't notice, or like?
Oh God,
We noticed.
No, I meant maybe they won't notice it's the other Val.
But I think it's a giraffe.
It is. I think there's a lot of concern of like, am I going to be replaced one day? And I think the goal behind Val isn't to replace marketers or to take away organizers, but really to automate the things that slow down a project, that take copious amounts of time and coordination, and just find all of your materials and a reliable person in one place that you can use as somebody in the background while you focus more on the strategy, running your own business, and tapping into influencers can be part of your day-to-day without taking over your entire job.
So it's less about using Gen AI to make creative, but instead we're using AI to bring people together. So bring small business owners, fractional CMOs together with creators to partner on these projects. So I think AI, to the extent that it can be used as a way to facilitate conversations and connections, I think that's a really exciting sort of way to use AI where we're kind of generating economic activity.
So is there a Ryan? Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
I was going to ask a similarly stupid question about how do you put a lot of emphasis on validation or value?
I was actually thinking that it stands for value AI. No joke.
I like that. We could have built an acronym in there on hindsight. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that. I mean, you can always retcon an acronym in there.
We are leaning into Val though, the giraffe. Like, you know, when you work with Val, the decks that you get delivered that have strategy and the creators, you know, have Val the character, and we envision Val the character like, you know, being a big part of the brand. And we even worked with a good friend of mine who's a cartoonist in Bogota, Colombia, to design the Val character. So it's not AI, it's a human cartoonist who has done it. And one of the cool things about Val is that she speaks Spanish, not this Val, the giraffe. And so she'll be able to work on launch day in Bogota, in Mexico City, in Lima, wow. You know, in these developing influencer markets of Latin America, which is super exciting.
That is cool.
Very interesting. So I have a question. How is influencer community embracing and or accepting working with AI agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I think naturally there's probably some frustration. I think in the same way when we all try to call CVS and we get put on a call with a robot for 10 minutes, all you want to do is just escalate to a real person. Totally natural. So I think that's part of why Val is there in the beginning, to give basic information, to give influencer rates. And, you know, they get these deals all of the time. So I think once you express a genuine interest in a partnership and you want to get to know a brand, there's a handoff there. So you have somebody ready and able to kind of take over and be part of a real conversation. Otherwise, you know, stuff like reading through a contract or a brief, you know, that's really just super helpful to have an AI there that can just say, like, what does that term mean? What do they mean by exclusivity? Just on the go 24/7 fast answers. People love it. Nobody wants to wait 3 days to hear back.
I think we're just all waiting for the days when the AI negotiates with the AI and there's no human involved at all.
100%. Like if you think about content, right? So much AI generated content, there will be soon, I have no doubt, some kind of a guard AI representation of us to fend it off, and we'll be hiding behind us. There's no doubt.
Well, the fun thing is, if you look at like Hinge and Grindr and other kind of dating apps, they're experimenting with basically a person has an agent, and that agent goes out and talks to another person's agent and decides if the two agents decide if the couple should have it's worth a human conversation. So it all starts with dating, and then you can imagine that we're all going to have, you know, little agents that represent us and are dealing with, you know, people trying to come at us for our time. So
there's, I think, literally a Black Mirror episode about this.
Actually, some of us, like me, could have used some help in that department in my days. So that's not a bad innovation right there.
That's interesting. Eric, you're on mute. We need to.
I was going to say, when anybody mentions Black Mirror, I just I have to shut down my brain because it's that first episode of the first season. I can't even.
Everybody hates Deb, or is it that one?
I can't talk about it on the podcast. It's against her.
I know which one you're talking about.
The first episode.
All right, just change the topic for 1 second. Is that your giraffe?
That's Val.
That's Val. Awesome. Okay, that's what I was doing, by the way, when I was looking off the screen. I was trying to get an actual picture of Val.
Val smokes cigarettes. She vapes. You know,
I had the opportunity to choose the cigarette one, and I was like, you know, family show.
It's an inside joke that has gone outside, but I don't think we'll have Val smoking any actual marketing collateral.
Do you care to elaborate on the inside joke about Val and her cigarettes? Or
well, human Val has sometimes vaped on a phone call or two, and we decided that you can only vape on internal calls, not on external client calls, and so that's part of the joke, I think.
Otherwise, they will shame you with your namesake giraffe, Val, right? That's what happens.
I feel like they went to extremes there a little bit, but that's, I'm with you, Val. Like,
yeah. Well, there's Val with the matcha, there's Val watering the plants. I mean, there's a version of Val for everything. So
Yeah.
No, I feel like maybe where did the giraffe?
Why a giraffe?
Yeah.
That growing up, that was my favorite animal. I don't know why. I chose it young, so it just stuck.
I was gonna say I thought it was because maybe you stuck your neck out with replacing yourself.
You know what? There's a lot of metaphors you can draw from a giraffe.
There's just so many like dad joke style puns we can make off of this.
Well, I think we asked Val what her favorite animal was. She said giraffe, and then we looked to see if there was like a prominent corporate giraffe, and we knew we wanted to have like a Duolingo owl, and we couldn't, we felt like it's the last giraffe we could think of as like Toys R Us, which I don't think is in business anymore. But remember him,
Jeffrey the giraffe. Well, there was also in France, there's Sophie the giraffe, right? So isn't there?
So wait, I feel a little left out because we now have Jeff. Jeff has a namesake giraffe. Val has a namesake giraffe. I feel like
What, are you left out?
I feel like we should all have namesake giraffes.
Well, I think it's also funny too, because I think when we were looking into this a little bit more, we found like how irritated people get when they're speaking to an AI that tries to look like a human, and it's just like frustrating or weird, or we didn't want to go the human.
It's like the uncanny valley kind of phenomenon.
Because there will be a voice situation with Val in the near future where creators can call Val and basically have a conversation about what they're interested in, and then be in the warm introduction database. So if you live in Kansas City and you are a fashion creator and a boutique in Kansas City is looking for creators, we're going to connect you all immediately, right? So that's sort of the idea there.
What is the coolest thing that the AI Val has done so far that was totally unexpected? You didn't think it would be able to do?
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe a little nerdy of an answer because I find it very impressive. But, one of the things I do at work is I manage 15 people who are spread across plenty of different influencer campaigns. And once we have an idea of who we're looking for, we kind of come up and brainstorm profiles and influencers we like. And then about a week later, we come to a decision, we present, all that stuff. And then just kind of working with Val in the early days, I would describe who I was looking for within minutes, like results of influencers I'd never thought of or considered, or, types of influencers that I didn't even think about and how they might lend nicely to a certain campaign. So just like super creative, really like scanning parts of the internet that I don't see, probably because of my own algorithm. Yeah. But it was just so fresh to see that come through.
So how does your team feel about all this? Does this make them nervous? Are they embracing, despite the height differential? Are they embracing Val?
Eric, they are so excited.
Okay.
Like I genuinely think they're so ready and trying to get like that extra hands-on support for the same reasons I was really excited by Val. I think, they find the profiles and the ideas that she has is just something so outside of the bubble that we've been used to for the past couple of years. So
that's great. I
think, one of the things about influencer marketing is if you are a small business, small nonprofit, if you don't have a CMO and a big team, to run a campaign is really time consuming, right? You can get a CRM and pay a minimum like $1,000 a month and run that campaign. It's going to take a lot of time. Or you can hire people first and we'll do an amazing job. But, our minimums are 10 or 15,000, which is out of range for a lot of businesses. So we think there's a huge market of small, medium-sized businesses, direct-to-consumer businesses that want to have creator but don't have the capacity to do it, and that this is the perfect sort of like do those campaigns. The big clients we work with, like American Cancer Society, White Castle, they need a team. They have really strict guidelines. They're making a lot of content. They're always going to have a different kind of solution, but I think for 80% of organizations, they need like somebody that is sort of their helper, and Val is that.
So did Val, and this might be a little circular or something, but like, did Val have a hand in coming up with her own launch? Like, has she planned her own influencer marketing campaign for her own rollout?
That's a very meta question. We haven't. It's funny. We should. She, Val's a people first customer, so we're definitely working with some creators to talk about Val. But we should put Val through Val, right?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, listen. I feel like I just had some value today. So
I think she
can Val go on it?
Is very real.
Yeah. Can Val go on a podcast herself? Is she an influencer?
She's not taking calls yet. She's very busy, and so she's taking a step back from partnerships right now herself.
But that would be a really cool way of a really cool.
For sure,
Wait a second. Let me just use on this for a minute. You know that there is now AI fashion influencers, right? Yes. So if we think about in a category of animation, Val could become an influencer in her own category.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Influencer.
Yeah.
We're actually going to end this call right now because we're going to go start our own business here.
There are already virtual influencer managers, right, who manage 9 or 10 different kinds of creators in that world. Somebody who's like an anime, so it's out there. I think very young audiences, maybe like Gen Alpha or baby Gen Zers might be interested in that. But I do think that like there's even skepticism with Gen Z and AI content.
Well, exact content. And I only think it's going to be more, right? Because it's still going to be a lot of shaking out until it becomes a good product. So I think it still has,
Well, on that note, what is the interaction that you have between Val's results and your human team? Is it like her results come to your team just like anybody else's, and then everybody kind of talks about them and prioritize them, or is it that she does the whole thing herself and then you're like, okay, let's just follow what she says?
Yeah, I mean, it's working with Val to get her to like help you on your own stuff it's pretty simple. A lot of the conversations that happen with Val are intentionally on iMessage and WhatsApp so that you can kind of work as you move around. And a lot of the materials that she sends, whether it's a deck or a document for you to look at, she sends it right over text. But if you're sitting down at your desk that day, she'll send it to you via email, or Slack or wherever you are. So she's really agnostic to those things, which on the back end has been a little more challenging to do, but I think it's really worth it just to be able to find all of your documents, get them together. And then at the same time, organizing that stuff. So if you have an account on the Meet Val AI website, you can just see a dashboard of like what needs my attention, what content do I need to have reviewed. In that way, it's much easier just to see all of the things that need your attention just in a dashboard rather than scrolling through your text. So we've had to think about that a lot too.
So you can lean into the Agentic, or you can do a mix of the chat with like this lightweight web dashboard. We want people to feel comfortable however they want to work. I do think that like there'll be all sorts of things we can do in the future with like Val plugging into APIs and doing all sorts of other cool things. As this is, Val's going to keep developing, along with the technology and what Agentic AI can do. So like right now, Val's built on top of Instagram and TikTok, so she's pulling data from there. But we're obviously, be adding other networks so she can do more B2B stuff on LinkedIn, more, gamer stuff on Discord, et cetera. So we do, we're going to keep pushing to have Val be able to be as functional as possible.
Does she participate in brainstorming sessions with humans, or is it more she works more independently?
That's actually a funny question. One of the cool features we built into Val was the ability to have a group chat with her.
Oh, that's cool.
So that if you get sidetracked or pulled into a meeting, somebody else could just jump in. So
that's really cool.
This is like something our other co-founder really thought people wanted, but you know, we're skeptical. But yeah, you can, you know, like Human Ryan and Human Val can join, and we could co-work on a campaign together. You know, so we could keep it going. One of the cool things about Val, she responds 24 hours a day, unlike Human Val, which I've only gotten to 9 or 10 hours.
Oh my God.
Darn, that Val needs her sleep and her vape.
Well, but like the reality is, if you had the AI Ryan, like AI Ryan and AI Val could be doing work all night. You know,
that's a dream. That's a dream, Jeff.
Yeah.
You just replace everyone. In fact, this is where, Val, I think you may have made a mistake. Like, you shouldn't have told them that you should have just been like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I just show up and I use my giraffe avatar. They wouldn't know. Anyway, well, speaking of AI, this is probably a good moment to jump in with a question from ChatGPT, as we like to do. I actually have to read this because I just thought it was funny, and I shared it with you all before we hopped on, but I'll read it for the show. You know, I asked what are 5 funny and thought-provoking questions for a podcast on the topic Agentic AI is changing influencer marketing. And I just thought it was interesting that the preface to ChatGPT's response was, love this topic, perfect mix of futury and slightly unhinged. I'm not sure what the unhinged part is, but okay. So here, I'm just going to go with the first one. It says, at what point does AI influencer stop being a tool? I'm not sure I completely understood, but AI influencer stop being a tool and start needing a brand manager or a therapist?
Or like in that group chat too.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a sloppy question. It's not the best question we've heard all day.
Okay, I think Val the giraffe would have done way better than that question. I'm just saying.
So I think what's happened is it's a little confused about what Val does, right? I mean, I didn't tell it. It's thinking that the AI is the influencers.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little confused. It does ask
which we've proposed already as part of the, you know.
Yeah, I'll give you another one. It says, does Agentic AI only kill the phrase personal brand, or does it turn everyone into a fractional influencer, whether they like it or not?
That's a fair question. I mean, we've always said that everyone has influence. So even if I don't have a lot of followers, I have influence among, you know, like gay men in Brooklyn of my age peers, you know, like they, you know, like, so everybody's got a certain level of influence. And I think the idea of Val is to democratize influencers. So both small businesses and, you know, other, you know, more creators can have access to this growing creator economy. What do you think, Val?
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I think there's a very limited understanding of what like an influencer is, because we just think of celebrities, really. We just think of them as synonymous. But yeah, I mean, every person has a small sphere of influence. I mean, people are going to come to me to ask me where did you get drinks in Philly. You know, I'm a trusted messenger in that regard. So yeah, I do think micro influencers often get counted out, but they have so much leverage.
Well, I also think especially for small businesses or B2B, right? Because it's very niche and they want to find this very specific people, and they don't have to have 10 million followers, but if they know that very niche, it's precious.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you really believe when somebody with 10 million influencers tells you to buy something? You know, it's just whatever at that point, you know?
Well, but also,
go ahead, sorry.
You know, one of the things that is still really strategically strong, you know, when you're working with a creator, is to take that content and boost it and put it in front of the target audience. So it doesn't matter if they have 1,000 followers, if they're the perfect messenger for your audience, take that content and put it in front of your audience. It scales incredibly well.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead, Jeff.
Now we're gonna fight over.
I didn't have anything to say. I was saying, yep.
So, you were talking earlier, Val, about sort of how AI Val works with your team. Have you ever outsourced like a one-on-one yet? This is a go talk. Have you said like, go talk to AI Val first, and then come back to me once you've sort of come up with a better plan or whatever?
No, I have not yet directed the team to go ask Val instead.
Do you think it would work?
You know what? There's always the phrase like use Google. Google's free. So I feel like I've mastered a very polite way of getting that across. But maybe ask Val instead is even just a softer way to guide people.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say we wouldn't even make them pay for their own Val credits. We'd give them, credits.
So, an interesting question, right? Lots of talk about mixed workforce, human/AI, right? So you're about to deploy Val and create your own mixed workforce at People First, right? Then what? There are going to be more Vals. There are going to be different agents. What's the thought?
I think, my belief with AI is that you should, as an organization, pick one problem that you have that's your biggest problem and just laser focus on that until you get it right. And we do one thing at People First, and that is we recruit and work with creators for brands and organizations. So we do that one thing really, really well. And I think with Val, the idea is this could be the everything influencer app for a bunch of organizations. And then, where do we go from there? I think at People First is just to lean into bigger, more, work with bigger organizations, more scale, more complicated campaigns, all the stuff that requires like still a lot of humans to kind of organize.
I mean, so on that note, does Val, the giraffe, does she do, like, can you work with her exclusively? Like, could a client come to you guys and say, oh, we don't want to pay for the human work, we just want to work with Val, and they work with Val, and then she not only finds the influencers and finds whatever, you say, okay, can you contact this person and give us the material? Like, is it 100% end-to-end, literally 100% end-to-end automated? Do you need some human intervention?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the end goal of Val, is to be fully end-to-end with the option to be as involved as you want. So I do always encourage some level of escalation, just because I do think there's certain decisions that a brand or a small business needs to make and think about themselves. But I do think, your level of involvement, again, is really what you want it to be. So I think that was a big part of, programming her, is just to make sure to stop and wait for a second and let somebody intervene, or just bypass and keep going.
Yeah.
So
before it deletes all your brand files or something like that.
But we want it to work for somebody who is a fractional CMO, who has a bunch of clients, who understands influencer and wants to use it as a co-pilot, or somebody who's a small business owner who's run search ads before, maybe some social, never done influencer, wants to do it for the first time, has a few $100s to try. So that's really where Val can work for that small business owner or that fractional CMO.
So to pick up on something you were talking about before, does it also, I mean, I could also see another potential use case where it's for a larger business, where you essentially can be like, I want to get to all these micro influencers that you were talking about before, but normally that would have been like so many conversations, so many negotiations, whatever. But now if I could have something that did that end to end, does it actually take for a large sized marketer like a Coca-Cola or I was thinking Cracker Barrel because that's where I used to work, but maybe I shouldn't go there right now. But like, how do you, could you actually have, use this tool, because you can basically have multiple instances of this tool, or what essentially are working in parallel. Go find 100 micro influencers, whereas like when my team used to come to me with like a micro influencer campaign, I'm like, this is a giant waste of time because we're getting no scale. But you potentially could create scale if you could automate those parts. I don't know if is that something that is part of the plan, the large company view?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think the ability to, receive programs that Val recommends, as well as customize them to be, what you would want out of an influencer campaign. I think it's really important to also think about what your timeline and budget is, because you get often big brands who say, I want this huge campaign with so many influencers and I have 6 weeks.
Right.
A Val AI is there to really help expedite some things, but really large scale projects or ones with limited budgets too, I think there's also just a level of being realistic too. But for the most part, you can get away with a couple of different size programs, whether they're awareness based or conversion or loyalty building, all that.
I think one of the things Human Val has been really focused on is that Val AI doesn't take on or doesn't like hallucinate projects that are not really doable in the time frame, and then commit to those projects. And so that's been something we've been focused on, where if somebody pushes Val to do something we don't think is possible, you'll be connected to a human to have a conversation about what the if it makes sense to use Val, or maybe this is a people first project, but we imagine that most people for most use cases will be able to use Val, and end to end without human intervention.
And what's the sort of scope of size of companies? And Jeff just brought that up. But do you go all the way up from some of these bigger companies you mentioned before down to single person, small companies, small podcasts with 3 hosts, like that kind of size?
Yeah, I mean that's Val's heard me say this so many times, but like I'm obsessed with the salon owner in Kansas City that I talked to, who wants to invite just some cool people in Kansas City to come get haircuts, and in exchange he would post them. And before, he never had any idea how to do that, and now he can say, hey Val, I'm looking for 10 cool young people who've posted about fashion or hair or something. I want to invite them to my salon, and it's going to cost him $120 in Val tokens to do that. He'll give some free haircuts, and then he'll get a bunch of social exposure. So that to me is like, that's sort of the dream. It's like, well, how do we get influencer into the hands of these small businesses, small nonprofits who just haven't been able to kind of like even find the people to work with?
Got it. And so would you work with people who are, let's say you work like a company that's helping the marketing? So it's not, you were talking about CMOs before, but do you also work with sort of intermediaries where, like, let's say Jeff and I have our company Twinning Edge, where we help companies out. If we wanted to come to you guys and say, hey, we have a client, in other words, can it be a third party thing as opposed to direct kind of relationship?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, one of the cool things that I love about Val is you start that conversation with her over text, and the first thing she's going to ask you is, what's your name? What do you do for work? And I can say that I'm Sarah and I work at the Philadelphia Zoo, and Val will actually find me on LinkedIn using those search parameters. And she'll say, oh, Sarah, I see you worked at the Philadelphia Zoo for the past 5 years. It looks like you're the marketing manager. And she'll start to like really describe like who you are and get a real like idea of what you're trying to accomplish on her own, without having to explicitly say these things by yourself.
So that's interesting, because every time I ask ChatGPT I said, tell me about Jeff Sigel, it's like Jeff Sigel, and then it gets like 2 things right, and then it starts talking about my car dealership in Dallas or something, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
You need better GEO.
Yeah, or something. Your personal GEO is not as good as it needs to be. So, anyway. Cool. Well,
Awesome. We've come to the end segment of our podcast at this point. We're about 35 minutes in here, and what we like to do is go around and have everybody give one thing that they want to leave our audience with. I always start with the guest, but since there's two of you, I'm gonna make Ryan go first and give Val a few seconds to think of what her one thing is, and we'll go from there.
In a world of increasing AI slop on social media, I think influencers, real people, authentic content, not polished, raw, like is a way that you get attention and you stand out. And whether you use Val AI or a CRM or an agency, just embrace influencer in 2026.
Sounds great. Val, do you want to jump in with one thing?
Yeah, I would go out really to the influencers and the content creators out there that, don't know that they do have a little sphere of influence. I think it's so important to make content that you like, what you're passionate about, whether it's a video game or cats or whatever. There's so much access to people right now, and there's such little barriers to entry to get started. So definitely encourage everybody, get creative, get online.
Awesome. So before I jump in with my one thing, what's the best way to connect with you all, or check out Val or whatever? What's the best connection?
People can go to meetval.ai and they can sign up to join our beta cohort. It's almost full, but if there's some cool companies out there, we definitely would be open to it. And otherwise, you can definitely share a link to my LinkedIn in the show notes or on LinkedIn. Easy to find. Val.
Yeah, likewise. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to my better half, the giraffe, go to meetval.ai. Otherwise, super looking forward to talking in person with human Val to anybody else that needs to tap into influencers.
So for my one thing, I'm going to make another plug for letting Val figure out Val's launch plan. I just think that would be such a cool thing. You take it or leave it, but that's I just think that would be such a cool story. Like Val launched Val. Anyway, I will pass.
So on my end, I actually love the fact that in this instance, AI is used to promote genuine content, authentic, generated by influencers to businesses at their price point, versus what we often see AI being used to create trashy content instead. So I very much appreciate the charter here.
Yeah, and I'm going to build on that a little bit on my one thing. Actually, I have two things. Well, sort of two things. I'll explain in a second. But my first thing is, I think this is really interesting that you've found a very focused niche for agentic AI instead of it being sort of this very generic, like, oh, we can just make it do this and make it do your emails and all this other stuff. Like, I think this is very, very interesting. And my second thing actually isn't me. It's that a special guest wants to give their one thing, which is for our people who are just listening, Val is giving a wink and a thumbs up here with it on the screen. So awesome. Thank you all. This was a really fun conversation. I love the concept and I love the character, and that it was it's got some fun to it. That's also really nice. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It's great talking. Appreciate it.